Hello and welcome back to class. So right now we are going to be diving into object-oriented programming, and first we are going to look at classes. Okay, classes and constructor. So what is a class, or what are classes? Classes are templates for creating objects, encapsulating data and behavior. Alright, that uses the class keyword to define custom types. So let's take a look. Alright, I'm going to close all of this and create a new file. The name of my new file is going to be classes.dat. Alright, because we are talking about classes now, we are in a new topic. Alright, so I'll also go here. Yeah, so now let's look at classes. It starts by saying that is an object-oriented programming. It supports object-oriented programming features like classes, interfaces, etc. A class in terms of OOP. OOP means object-oriented programming. Alright, what we have right here. So a class in terms of object-oriented programming is a blueprint for creating objects. A class encapsulates data for the object. That gives built-in support for this concept called class. So declaring a class. Use the class keyword to declare a class in that. The class definition starts with the keyword class followed by the class name. Alright, and the class body enclosed by a pair of curly braces. And the syntax is given below. So let's create a class. Alright. Class. And let this be a class of school. Okay. Alright, let me use car. Let me use this example. Class of car. So I have this class known as car. Alright, and inside my class I have a variable. Now this variable is known as a property or field. Alright, a property or field. I like to refer to it as property. Alright, so the class has a property. Alright, and this property simply defines the engine, the engine of this particular car. Right, the engine type is this. Okay, so let's define something else like the color. The color, I'll define it to be black. Alright, and one more thing. New. So since it is not a new car, I'll call it false. I'm getting an error here. Why am I getting an error? It says new can't be used as an identifier because it is a keyword. Alright, so this word new is a keyword just as class is a keyword. Alright, so I cannot define a variable with the name class because class is a keyword in that. Okay, we have some other keywords like the ones we use to declare loops, like for. Alright, you cannot name a variable for because this is a keyword in that. Do you understand? So instead of saying new, I can just rename it to is new. All right, so is new. I initialize it to false to say that this car is not new. Okay, so we also have a function or method. In fact, I should rename this to method and say that this is a function inside of a class. So we have a function inside of a class. It is a method. All right, that is the proper name for it. Yeah. So I have this. Okay, I have a class with 3 properties and a method. So that's it. A class is a blueprint of an object. For example, this is this class is the blueprint, or should I say represents a car. Alright, this particular class represents a car of engine E1001, a car of color black, and a car that is not new. Alright, so it also has a method, and this method actually just prints this engine, the engine. Alright, so that's it. That's how to declare a class. So this example declares a class. The class has a name field, a field named engine. The disp is a simple function that prints the value of the field engine. Alright, so creating instance of the class. To create an instance of the class, use the new keyword. Now this new keyword, alright, we saw it earlier, but we are not going to be making use of it because the Dart programming language has been upgraded. Okay, and new releases of the Dart SDK no longer requires us to use this new keyword. All right, so we are just going to be creating instances of classes without this new keyword because we can do without it now. All right, so this is the syntax for creating an instance of a class. All right, and it says here the right hand side of the expression invokes the constructor. The constructor should be passed. The construction should be passed values if it is parameterized. Okay, so this is instantiating a class, and then all right, let me just do that. So I have this class. All right, I'm going to have my main function, void main. Okay, and inside here I'm going to create an instance. Okay, first of all, let me explain it this way. This is my class. All right, if I want to access any property or method inside of my class, now I can have more than one method. Okay, it's just that, in fact, let me have another method, int age. Okay, and I'll return 10. So let's say this car is 10 years old. All right, so I just have an integer that returns the age of my car. In fact, let me have an extra property. Okay, so I'm just going to return the age. Car age. All right, so I can access any property or method using an instance of the class. For example, I can call this method. Alright, and if I call it, of course, it's going to print my engine, because this is what it is executing. This is the statement of the function I'm calling. Alright, so I can also call car age if I so wish. Alright, and it's going to just return the age of my car. Alright, so int age, yeah, let me store this in age, and then print. Alright, so I will get the age of my car. Alright, so this is called an instance. Alright, I am accessing the properties and method of my class using the instance of the class. Alright, I can access the properties and methods of my class using instance. Exactly. Alright, I just call this one because it is void. Alright, it does not it doesn't have a value, so there's no value to store in the variable. Okay, so I can just call the function. Alright, so I am accessing my properties and method using an instance. Okay, so this is what we call an instance, and this instance is actually, if you look at it, it actually looks like a function call. Remember what we talked about in functions, right? I showed you what a function call looks like. Okay, this looks very much like a function call, and that is because we are actually calling a function. Alright, so this car class has a built-in function called a constructor. Alright, it has a built-in function called a constructor. Exactly, a built-in method rather called a constructor. So this method is built-in. It is not visible to us right now, but we can make it visible. Right, we can make it visible. A constructor is simply a function or a method rather that has exactly the same name as the class, and we cannot have more than one of them. Right, every class in that has a constructor. You get it? Every single class in that has a constructor. So inside here I can print something. I say constructor being called. Okay, now I can do without this constructor, right? But because I want to show you that I want to show you that when we have an instance of a class like this, we are actually calling the constructor, the built-in constructor. Alright, so right now this constructor we have made it visible. Alright, it was invisible before, but now we have made it visible by declaring it inside the class. Okay, so each time I call this constructor here and here, I'm calling it twice. Alright, this is going to be printed. Okay, so I'm just going to run it, and you can see that this is being printed twice, constructor being called. Alright, so this is also, this is called an instance of a class, right? And whenever you have an instance of a class, what is being called, what you are actually calling, is the constructor of that class. Alright, you're just creating a new instance of this entire class, a new instance, like more like a copy of the class each time, right? Each time you instantiate it like this. So that is why um, there's a better way, right? There's a better way of accessing properties and objects of a class, okay? And that is by creating objects of a class. So um, right now we have like two instances, right? If there's need for me to access every single property of this class and every single method of this class, I'll have to, you know, I have to um, create new instances everywhere, all right, which is not good, okay, which is not good because like I said, new instances of classes all over our code is going to make our code base very bulky, all right. It's going to consume a lot of memory because classes are being created, new instances of classes with lots of data are being created several times, all right. So what we can do is we can avoid this problem by creating an object, okay. So I'm going to create an object like this. I'll say car, my car equal to car. Let me actually call this the name of a car brand, Toyota, all right. My Toyota, better, okay. So with this object now, all right, with this object I can access anything I want to access. I can access any property or method, okay, in the class. I hope it's clear. My Toyota dot age, and also print my Toyota dot color, okay. So now you can see that this particular print statement is no longer printing several times. It's now prints once, all right, because we have only one instance, all right. We have only one instance instead of several instances of the class, okay. So now our code is more, our code is smaller, it's consumes lesser memory, and it is more efficient, all right. Our code is going to compile faster and much better because of this, okay. So there is another way of accessing data in a class, all right, and that is through static access, all right. Through static access, what do I mean by that? Let's say I want to be able to say car.age and car.color and car.disp, okay. I want to be able to access these properties and method directly, okay, without having to create an object. I can still do that. What I can do is to make all my values static, okay. So this static is another keyword that gives us direct access to our properties and method in a class, right? So static color, what else? This one age, okay. Static, yeah. So I can also mark my function as static, and now you can see that I have direct access. I don't even need this object anymore, all right. I now have direct access to my properties and methods, all right. So these are alternatives to to creating instances, all right. You either create an object and use the objects to access your properties and methods of a class, or you make use of static access. All right, do not create several instances. It is not good. All right, it is not good for your software, for your program. All right, so that's where I'm going to stop for now. All right, we'll continue in the next class. Thank you.